And welcome back to Praggers Gaming. I'm Gamer Praggers, and this is Citizen Sleeper. In the last episode, we tried to help Peake unlock the Gardner to help protect the Eye. However, we bumped into Castor, who tried to stop us. So I imagine that we will be seeing him again soon. We also managed to help the flotilla with completing repairs and preparations to both Song and to the main flotilla. So which just leaves us with the dusthouses, which we should be able to do in this one. So we will do that. You sit in one corner of the dust house and inspect your work. This dust house, the one with plants from the greenway and some of the steppe species intermingle, has become your favourite. The moss and dust sharing the space in curving terraces, the pale knots of silk steppe freckled with yellowing lichel symbiotes. It is a hypnotic arrangement. You look down and see the intertwining of fungal threads and dust-caked roots and feel a little glow of pride at what has been achieved. You hear the entry lock of the dust house hiss open, and assuming it is Aki, turn to greet her. Sleeper. I should have known you'd be here. Riku smiles, her warm smile leaning on her crutch. You must be one of the most green-fingered people on the station. Riku. Now, has it been so long? She smiles, a wry smile. No need for any drama. I met some of the steppe refugees in the greenway. They were gathering plants and I confronted them. Turns out they were very friendly. She smiles to herself. Aki was very apologetic, but I told them they were welcome to anything they liked. She told me I'd be welcome to come see, and well, I thought I'd take her up on the offer. She looks around the dust house with its strange hybrid ecosystem. I have to say, I'm glad I did. I can see that. Riku limps over to you, she holds out her hand. How about you take me on a tour? You take Riku's hand and walk her around the hybrid dust house. You show her how the silk steppe knots help provide a strong base for fungal and lichel growths, and how the dust mixes with the spores. You show her the different species of steppe tubers and the way they feed the soil with nutrients that help herbaceous greenway plants thrive. She nods along, her eyes bright with ideas. She stops after a while and gestures for you to sit together. I know something is happening with the Eye, Sleeper. She looks out at the plants. We all felt the Flux event hit and everyone is talking about what's next. I came out here to figure something out, to understand what I might do about it all. You glance at her and see the glossiness in her eyes, and I think I have decided. What you have done here, what Aki and the other steppe refugees have done here is incredible. A whole new ecosystem built from the strange artificial changed remains of two worlds. But I am not of two worlds. I am of the Eye. A tear runs down her cheek. Like it or not, I am intertwined with the station. I'm old growth. I don't have that much time anymore. And it seems to accelerate with every cycle. She frowns. It blurs together, separates, overlaps, comes back to me in strange ways. The time I do have, this time I want to spend on the Eye, in the greenway, watching things grow. She wipes her cheek. One day, I'll lie in those fields and not get back up. She smiles, the tear tracks down both cheeks. And when the green takes me, I'll be so glad. You could leave. Riku nods. You know, Sleeper, when you get to my age, you stop thinking about what you could do and try to better understand why it is you act as you do. I know I will stay. I just need to understand it. She wipes her eyes and turns to you. But that's enough of me blubbering on about it. She furrows her brow. What I want to know is what you are planning. I don't know. Riku smiles. We all have to get to know ourselves, Sleeper. To know what it is that drives us. I'm sure you'll decide to act in the manner you know, but you also have to ask yourself why it is so. She places a trembling hand on yours. Don't neglect that. Oh! She suddenly lifts both hands. Don't let me forget this. She reaches into her coat and pulls out a transparent bag of sporing clubheads with carefully preserved root systems. I'd like to plant these. If you go, you'll need them. She looks down at her feet. And if you don't, well, maybe another sleeper will benefit. She frowns. I can offer that at least. Thank you. She nods. Don't thank me. These are yours by right. Riku stands and limps over to a pile of mulch. She delicately takes the club heads out and beds them into the soil there with precise, expert hands. You should go, sleeper. I'll be a while. She calls back, not looking away from the job at hand. See you around. She says it casually, but there's a note of finality to her speech. See you around. You turn and leave the dust house, cycling through the protective lock, back into the cool quiet of the ship. Aki is waiting for you. It's beautiful. She is looking through the observation window and the green reflects in her eyes. The plants look happy together. She spots Rico with her hands in the soil. Ah, the botanist came. She shoots you a look. A friend of yours? More than that. She speaks beautifully about the greenway. I should go in and welcome her. She pauses. Are you leaving us? For now. The first of many goodbyes. She suddenly embraces you, wrapping you in her layers of rough cloth. She pulls back. I wish you a steady step and a clear path. She smiles. A farewell from my world. Godspeed. She smiles. I like how that sounds. Godspeed to you. She nods and smiles one last warm smile before turning and entering the dust house. You watch as she walks inside, Rico turning with a smile to greet her. She kneels beside the old botanist and you see her pointing to the clubheads, asking questions. You are unable to hear them, but despite that, you can easily imagine the measured, even tone laced with excitement that Rico is using to explain the clubheads, the greenway, and much, much more. You turn, leaving them to their conversation. Your step is light, despite the burdens you carry, and the smile Rico and Aki were sharing is somehow still on your lips as you depart. Okay. So... Okay. We've completed all the preparations for the flotilla. Which leaves us only with the control facility. Okay. I'm not going to use the stabilizer just yet because I feel that it's unnecessary considering. But Temple Tea House, nope. Emphasis store. There we go. I don't really know why I'm doing. Oh, I think because of the downside of the condition. Sleeper, here. Peake calls you from across the flickering corridor. An elevator to the core. They smile. This is it. It has been a long set of cycles, hunting for a path through the derelict layers of old Solheim offices and workshops. But finally, here it is. The path down to the core. You rush over to Peake. As you do, the doors grind open, the dingy-looking elevator flicking as they do. You look at Peake, who nervously gestures for you to get in. I'm not sure how this will end. I don't think it's going to end well, though. Step in. The elevator bounces a little but stays stable. You glance back to see Peake watching you nervously. They follow you in, sheepishly, just a little nervous. Peake reaches over and punches the button for the lowest level, flinching a little as the doors grind closed. The elevator sets off, screeching through the floors as it does at an unsettlingly loud volume. I'd feel more comfortable if we spoke. Peake raises their voice over the noise. It's not going to be a short trip. Have you heard of Senate? Peake thinks. Maybe once. They frown. Could have been mentioned in an XPR news packet. The kind the Central Administration sent out to us. Something about market analytics, I think? They shake their head. When you've spent so much time trying to forget your past, this stuff isn't easy to dredge up. How's Ash? Peake pauses. I was thinking more like small talk. Elevator talk, they sigh. She is... packing. They rub their eyes. Once Ash has set their mind on something, well, you know her now. You know what I mean. The screeching of the elevator fills the silence. Can she be persuaded to stay? I doubt it. I really do. Peake looks down. She left her life behind to take me out of XPR, out of Hawthorne. I can't imagine her settling for just anywhere. To be honest, I can't see her letting me stay either, but I guess things have changed. Back then at Hawthorne, I wasn't in a place to know what to do. I was desperate. I was ready to run. But now? Peake pauses. Now I feel done with that. Done with denying my past, my history. If I ever want to feel complete, to feel settled, don't I need to somehow resolve the person I was with the person I am now? Peake goes quiet, and you do too. There are too many possible questions, too many possibilities before you. It just seems easier to get on with the task at hand, and leave the consequences for later. The elevator screams to a stop and the doors ping open with a strangely cheerful beep. You glance at Peake. Time to move on. You both walk out into an atrium, still lit by some ragged-looking light panels on the ceiling, once simulating a summer sky, now degraded into a flickering blue and white tapestry of glitches. Peake crosses quickly, making a beeline for the large doors on the far side, where you can make out a fading sign in massive peeling letters, Central Control. You follow, helping them lever open the partially powered doors until the motors kick in and they spring to life, thudding open. You and Peake tumble through across the damp metal. As you stand, you are greeted by flickering lights, thousands of them. A vast cylindrical stack of servers, processors and transmitters dominates the centre of the room, its flickering LEDs reflected in the scattered puddles that surround it. Despite the decay, the warped panels and water leaks, it is still running, just as it has for decades and decades, since the station was first spun up. You wonder how long it has been since anyone has been in this room. You exchange wide-eyed looks with Peake. This place is a still living piece of history. What is this place? Peake stares. One of the central facilities of the station. The primary one for the rim, it looks like. They shake their head. The heart of this place. Peake takes a handful of mulch out from a small bag. It glitters with spores. Now we seed this place. They cross to the server and start packing the mulch deep into the machinery, pushing fistfuls deep into gaps in the panelling, laying it across hardware. As you watch them doing this, you feel a tug, a thread pulling at you. You approach the vast piece of cylindrical hardware that Peake is stuffing mulch into. You run your hands across its plated metal surface and watch the lights blink in response. As you pass, you hear a whirring, like a physical disk drive starting up. The whirring shifts, alternating, speeding up, slowing down, and as you listen, you hear it modulate into a voice. Sleeper, you freeze. You are here. For a moment you are afraid, but something in the tonality of the voice is familiar. Navigator? Another drive spins up, another giving the voice a richer, multi-tonal sound. I had forgotten what it felt like to speak like this. The drives skip. There is a certain quality to it, a certain physicality. Why contact me like this? The drives squawk in unison. Did you imagine the Flux, the shadow protocol, that they were just a problem for the people of this station? A high whining begins. They are all the more dangerous to us. I have been in hiding once more, jumping from network to network to avoid the shadow as it eat up nodes. A low rumble. I had thought my hiding days were done. For the moment, I have found myself a safe haven here in the core. The shadow is yet to breach this facility, although that is a temporary state of affairs. The rumble stop. My predictions do not point to good outcomes. That's why we're here. You explained to Navigator about Peake's plan and about Gardner's resistance to the shadow, and how by seeding key systems, you will protect them from its advance. The drives hum thoughtfully as you speak. A desperate plan? The drives were, but appropriate given the probability of total collapse. I am not sure what will be worse for us, hiding from the erasure of the Shadow Protocol or the assimilation of Gardner. The drive paused to reset. But we owe you our freedom. I will do what I can to guide the Gardner into the systems you have seeded. It is correct to do so. Be careful. The drives squeak in affirmation. You have notable persistence, Sleeper, even with such poor probabilities of success. I will be curious to see the outcome. The drives squeal, the motors giving out. This cannot be sustained much longer. Go, I will be fine. A final squeak of affirmation, and then the drives skitter and slow to a halt. You step back from the towering cylinder, staring at this vast piece of Solheim hardware. This whole place is built from ghosts, you think. From old protocols and company hardware. From engines that drove decades of corporate expansion. Is the eye proof that they can be shifted, bent, forced into new configurations that allow for new ways of living? Or is its inevitable collapse proof that these engines of expansion can never be anything other than a corrupt foundation? It seems to depend on who you ask. Done. Peake's shout breaks your line of thought. The heat and damp should help the spores germinate quickly. If we are lucky, there is enough time for some growth before we reconnect the Greenway. They glance at you. That's it. All the facilities seeded. They sigh. We either just ensured the eye's survival, or stuffed a whole lot of soil into one of the most important computers. They laugh weakly. Shall we go? They start to head back towards the doors and the elevator beyond. You wait a moment, following the blinking lights. You wonder what might be tucked away in such a structure, what secrets it might hold, what histories. It's an intriguing prospect. But while you watch the lights, you realise something. If the eye is to become anything more than an offshoot, a temporary structure, it must form its own history, its own stories, stronger than anything that came before. Unlocking these Solheim secrets won't do that, but the persistence, the stubborn drive to survive, that is in the veins of every person in this place. That will, and that is what you are trying to save. You turn your back on the core and follow Peake back into the elevator. As you ride the car back up, Peake raises their voice over the screeching. I'm going to the Founder's Gap to finalise the connection. The moment I'm ready, I'll let you know, and we'll let the Gardner out. The sooner the better. Peake furrows their brow. If we wait until the final cycle, it'll be too late. If you want to help speed things up, go work with the flotilla. We can't make the connection until we know they are ready to go. Peake swallows. Unleashing Gardner could affect them too if we aren't careful. This will work. Peake nods, opens their mouth to speak, and closes it again. You ride the rest of the way in silence. When you reach the top, you go your separate ways, but before you do, Peake embraces you, burying their face in your shoulder. You stand there together for a moment, spinning with the eye, moving relentlessly towards an unknown future, and then they let go and slip away, the pressure of their hug fading like a bruise as you begin to leave. Okay. Right. Well, I mean, we've done everything we can. We shall sleep. We can't self-repair because we don't have the scrap for it. But we can potentially get some scrap now. Not with those dice we can't. Okay. Interesting, there's nothing to do over there. over here. Do you know what? I'm going to... Oh, yes. I'm going to buy some scrap. Okay. Let's re-roll the dice. Well, crap. That's less than ideal. Right. Get some food. No active drives. We are waiting for the end of days. Okay. Let's use the stabilizer and end the cycle. Peake slate chirped in your pocket. You take it out. The message. A message. The connection is ready. Meet me at the Founder's Gap. Greenway side. Peake. You clench your jaw. It's time. They've gone. They have gone. Yep. Okay, well, let's just get some energy. There we go. And we shall speak to Peake. You find Peake waiting near where you first met, at the entrance to the docking tunnel for the Founder's Ferry. They are leaning beside the wall in the flickering light, and you realise now how different they look from when you first met. There is a darkness around their eyes, a sense of exhaustion to their pose, but also a solidity, a sense of purpose, and self-knowledge. They look concrete, for want of a better word. Solid. Sleeper. They spot you and a small smile crosses their face. Glad you came. I wouldn't be anywhere else. The smile grows. Crunch time. They shake their head in disbelief. Let's go. The break in the connection is up ahead. They walk away from the docking tunnel into a ragged, half-crushed corridor that descends into darkness. They poke their slate, and a torchlight flicks on, lighting the way ahead. As you descend through the layers of the broken edge of the eye, Peake talks, filling the silence. I had to hunt all over this part of the eye to find the point where the connection was broken. They run a hand along the buckled metal of the wall, stooping under the angled ceiling. This hole, the gap, got knocked in the eye. When Solheim collapsed, it's impossible to tell who did it, but my guess is they tried to scuttle the eye. If Solheim couldn't keep hold of their fancy new station, well, no one could. Peake ducks through a fractured passageway with hanging wires like vines, so this place has always been on borrowed time. I've managed to weave together the old connections, run a new patch down to where the main line still runs through the remaining ribs of the rim. They smile, just like keeping those old XPR platforms running. Ash would be proud if she'd bothered to help. As Peake goes quiet, the corridor opens into a wider, twisted passage with compartments on either side, thick with wiring. Here, this is the connection point. You can see where Peake has levelled off a panel and hooked up a thick cable to the existing hardware. As thick as a tree trunk, it snakes off into the dark ahead, its yellow rings making it look like some huge exotic serpent. You did all this? Peake nods. It was an interesting challenge, plus it helped me keep my mind off things. Peake smiles a weak smile. there's a lot I'd prefer not to think about. You both stand there, staring at the point where the new cable meets the old one. The ends separate, fitted with multi-pin male and female connectors, and braced inside a metal framework with a scissoring mechanism. Bring them together, seal them, and the greenway will be connected to the rest of the eye for the first time in decades. Peake shifts their weight onto one hip, pushing the hair out of their eyes. I feel like this should be more momentous, like there should be some ritual or ceremony. They pause. Or someone should stop us from doing this crazy thing. It isn't crazy. Peake nods. I mean, I'm not being funny, Sleeper, but this whole thing is crazy to me. Peake shakes their head. Leaving Hawthorne with Ash, joining the flotilla, coming here, meeting you, the Flux, the Shadow, everything. They laugh a hollow laugh. So I suppose this is at least consistent with all that. They take a deep breath. Okay. They look at you with mild panic. They hold both sides of the supporting framework, ready to scissor it closed. Here we go. Peake wrenches the framework closed, and the connectors thunk together with a sound that echoes down the ruined corridor into the dark on both sides. Both you and Peake wait with bated breath, unsure what it is you're waiting for. Do you expect the eye to suddenly stop spinning or lurch on its axis? For the power to go out? Or a shockwave to run through the corridors of the room? You meet Peake's eyes, and suddenly they burst out laughing. What are we waiting for? They put a hand to their forehead. I feel like we just planted a tree and are expecting it to burst out of the ground. They shake their head. But you feel it. You feel it flowing like a stream that has been released from a cave and rushes out into the sunlight, crystalline and clear. You swear you can hear it running in the wires, like water, like rain, like steam. It doesn't roar or rattle, but it rustles and writhes, there, like liquid roots. Peake sees the look in your eyes and stops laughing. You can see it, can't you? You can't see it, not with your eyes at least, but it is everywhere, and now it is out. It can't be put back in, that much is clear. You imagine the rim of the eye like a sponge, like soil soaking up the Gardner and their chorus, the gaps filling with a burbling, constant, growing life. Peake stares at you, waiting for something, anything. Something has changed. Peake looks concerned. They close their eyes, they go to speak, but the words fail them. Suddenly Peake's slate chirp. They jump and scramble for it, almost dropping it in the process. But when they stare at it, a look of confusion crosses their face. Is it the Gardner? Peake's mouth falls open. It's Ash. They swallow. She's leaving. They look at you with panic. Before you can speak, they have turned away and are moving back up the passageway, back towards the entrance. Peake. They don't turn, don't respond, and you watch their silhouette, lit by the slate's torch, disappear rapidly around a corner. You take out the slate Peake gave you and turn on the torch. The wires are all around look like pale roots in the harsh light, and you turn away from them. They are Gardners now. You work your way back through the corridors, retracing your steps. You imagine Peake, panicked, running towards the cordon, realizing that their greatest fear has come to pass. You wonder if they will be able to persuade Ash to stay. If Ash is going, you think, then the flotilla must be leaving too. The thought makes you shiver in the darkness, and you push it away. You are not ready. You focus on avoiding the hanging wires and low ceilings and make your way back out into the lit corridor of the Founder's Ferry Dock. Castor is waiting for you. He holds up his hands. Now, Sleeper. No need to fear. He raises his eyebrows. I understand now it was my mistake to try to force you. A miscalculation. I won't hold you here, Sleeper. Castor stands to the side, but I wish to speak. You stop, giving Castor his opportunity. Castor nods. At first I thought that, if you'll excuse the turn of phrase, taking possession of your particular talents was the opportunity. He smiles a broad smile. But you are more than that. I understand that now. Your arrival on this station, your ability to touch the networks, this makes you the very definition of a wildcat. He touches the rim of his glasses. Senate stats analysis, my analysis. We could never have accounted for you. This system, the Helion system, is about to experience a significant change, about to open up to Senate stats bailiffs, Conway's claimants, and every industry and element an active Kant channel brings. Yet this very cycle, you let another wildcard free, Gardner. I
have to admit, this development makes me afraid, Sleeper. It makes me afraid what an intelligence like this will sacrifice to protect itself, or what atrocities it might commit through madness. And yet, Castor's eyes glint, what a compelling object such an intelligence is. Let me protect you, mark you out, keep Senate from eliminating by force or legal expediency you as they will with every other squatter on this ring. Castor clasps their hand together, and in exchange, when Senate comes for this place, you facilitate the handover. You calm the protocols, you give us the Gardner.
I can't do it. Never. Castor takes off their glasses and polishes them.
Disappointing.
You begin to leave. As you approach, he speaks quietly in an urgent whisper.
I do not wish to see you lost. You are of great value, if you ever want to see that realized.
You push past, ignoring him, and his voice fades. The last you see of him is his slow nod, perhaps a mark of resignation, or just another differential gesture aimed at manipulating your response. It doesn't matter either way, you are done with him. You head towards the cordon, Peake and the flotilla in the forefront of your mind. But that is all we've got time for. I'm fairly certain we're a little bit over. So we are going to end this here. Quite possibly at the very end of the game. So for now, thank you for hanging out. Don't forget to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel, ticking the bell so you know when new videos go live. I do try and get videos up every single day, and if you've got friends who you think would enjoy my content, then please share the channel with them, and hopefully we can make a new friend. In the description is a link to the channel Discord. Feel free to come and talk about the games you're playing, the games I'm playing, games in general, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace!